All right, Mr. Gordon. So now that we've gotten your workout regimen out of the way, and I think you're pretty solid on that, let's go ahead and address your question about the healing process. I know you asked about that. So you had a pretty major trauma. Surgery is always considered a major trauma. Someone's cut into you. Your body said, "Whoa, what's going on?" Your body reacts, and so the first thing your body did, and you got to remember these are the two muscles right here. My fingers are. They got healed. So in this area, that incision, your body said, okay, we got to stop this bleeding. So once you were sewn up, made it a lot easier. Your body said, thanks. There was a lot of vasoconstriction taking place in a process called hemostasis, which basically means stop bleeding, right? Stop the bleeding. And so what happened is the blood slowed down. It allowed a clotting factor, clotting to kind of like close up the wound to be delivered to that site. White blood cells are coming in saying, all right, you stuff didn't belong here, get out of here. We're going to clean this up. Um, and basically this hemostasis phase, and I'm going to combine it with the inflammation phase a little bit, which is why your shoulder's swollen. Think about that swelling you see when you take off the bandage in order to dress your wound, redress your wound. There's pain, there's redness, there's swelling, there's a little bit of warmth still, I imagine. And then there's also your loss of function, which is why, again, we have it immobilized and we're going to let that thing heal. Okay, it's again, everything going on in there is happening for a reason. That swelling is part of the process, totally normal. So, good there. All right. So, along with this inflammation phase, we've got that vasoconstriction. We have the edema happening. We have the clotting factor. The white blood cells are delivered. There's a little bit of overlap into the next phase as well called proliferation. And once we're done with that inflammation phase and we get into this proliferation phase, we can start moving a little bit more. Does that make sense? Remember we talked about being able to do some passive exercises. We'll be able to start really getting that movement going because there will be some support there. It's going to rebuild it and it's going to strengthen it during that phase. And given that this was a surgery, the time frames differ from a minor injury like cutting, small cut on your finger or something. And so the time frames I gave you, in a few weeks, hopefully we will have this be in this proliferation phase, and we will be able to get that passive motion going. Okay, like I talked about with the pulley, getting some range of motion going without using the muscles, without using these muscles. We're going to have that epithelialization going on, epithelial being a connective tissue, really closing up the skin and starting to create that scar tissue. We have a lot of vascularization going on, meaning you're going to have new blood vessels. Congratulations, you get new blood vessels. And those are going to deliver that blood we talked about, which is why we're going to be doing also these movements here around the joint, like I talked about, to bring in blood, keep some fresh O2, keep some nutrients coming in there, and keeping this thing supplied with what it needs to build. Okay? And then you're also going to have what's called collagen. It's connective tissue to strengthen this area. And that's going to allow you to start doing some very easy activities like that passive movement range of motion I talked about. It's not as strong as your normal collagen. It's kind of like an intermediary, if you will. Okay, and then it's gonna come along, and then eventually get cleared out. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the wound is going to contract on itself and pull itself together, and that's going to be the closing and a large part of the healing. And from that point on, once we start getting the muscles going, we will be in what's called the maturation phase. Okay, what's going to happen there is all that stuff that was there, all those worker bees that were in there, the white blood cells, that collagen that's in there, the veins that were in there, the new veins, a lot of that stuff's going to just kind of go away because they're not needed anymore. You're now at a point where your body can start sort of returning to its normal processes, but it's also going to rebuild the old collagen that was in there. It's a different type, type 1 and type 3, excuse me. It's much stronger. Type 1 collagen. Oof. It's much stronger than the type 3 collagen that was there to support, and that will then allow us to start really working some of the strengthening exercises with that shoulder. Okay. Let's see, anything else there? I think that about covers it. You will have some scar tissue, totally normal, but I think that kind of takes us through the phases of your healing there. Let me know if you have any questions, okay?